Welcome to the... Oh, man, what episode is this? I think this is episode 24. We're going to go with episode 24, and if you never heard of episode 23, you missed it. But this is episode 24, and we had Mark Crawford, who's here with us. Hey, Mark. We talked a lot about home improvement, and this is the most helpful podcast I think ever done by us.
Yeah. It was, people have wanted some practical insight, some wisdom, and it didn't come where we expected, but it's there.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to work with a gas company, this is the podcast to work to listen to. But we talked about a book, and the name of that book is, Mark?
Red Dwarf. We briefly talked about this book, Red Dwarf.
Yes, and so that's it. If you want to read it, there is a little bit of brothel talk in the beginning. Parental advisory.
Yes.
And then, we talked about there's a portion at the end, or the second half of the podcast, I should say, that is about social media. I think there's some really interesting stuff there. I'm sure we'll touch on this all again, but social media becomes a big theme. But hey, don't skip out on all that practical home stuff. You might want to take some notes.
Well, and next week will be our 25th podcast. If this is 24.
Man,
25 times you and I have sat down.
Wow.
And talked to each other.
We're getting on. I mean, this is sneaking up on half a year.
That's pretty crazy.
All right.
How did you start yet?
Good morning. Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. Hey, my name is Andy Littleton. I'm from Mission Church in Tucson, Arizona. Eric is the one who inadvertently opened us for this podcast, and he is from where, Eric?
I'm from the village. In fact, I'm the pastor of the church, along with the other people.
Along with other people.
Who call themselves pastors.
Along with 10-year-olds at church, I guess.
Yes, 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And also with Mark Crawford, who's sitting here with us.
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Yeah, Mark's at the village, too. Mark is, elder.
Yes.
At the village, also does worship music. We had a plan today. We were going to talk about worship again because people have listened to that podcast.
Yeah, apparently it's our most listened to podcast.
So we thought for the new year, why not just talk about that again and get people to listen to us. But we were going to bring my buddy Mike along, and Mike is sick. So Mike...
What sickness does Mike have?
Undisclosed.
Undisclosed?
Yeah, it may just be I'm sick of talking about worship music.
Could be. That means he didn't play basketball with you today.
He did not play basketball.
Did you play basketball?
I did not.
Yeah.
When I got the text message, I slept in.
That's probably the one time that somebody showed up.
Yeah, right. Somebody else was there that we invited. Were you there?
No. Because my ankle still has a dime-sized hole in it.
Oh, man.
It's gotten a lot better. But it was maybe, I don't know, two or three quarters along, and now it's down to a dime. It's healed up really nicely, but the lip of my shoe still rubs up on it, so playing basketball is probably not.
Oh, man. Do you use that as a sermon illustration on Sunday, that there's a God-sized hole in your heart?
No, Andy, I need to kind of run my sermons past you to get a little bit of help.
I was going to try to...
That's never been done.
I was going to try to join you guys for basketball.
Oh, yeah?
And then I realized I'm not any good at basketball.
Yeah.
Neither are we.
Yeah, we're not good.
It's not that I'm not good, it's that I'm bad at basketball.
We want a body. Please come be a body.
We just need someone to run around. Eric is good at basketball. I'm just going to say.
I'm good at being a body.
You're good at basketball, man. You know what you're doing. Anyway, so we're here. We're gonna change it up. We're gonna talk a little bit. For number one, I'm looking at. Oh, we're not at EXO. That's something we should say.
People can see because it's quiet and there's no music.
Do you not hear something that's normally here? The clanking, us turning down a speaker. Mm-hmm. It's because we're not at EXO. The reason we're not at EXO is Mark has a child.
Yes.
The child is in the bedroom sleeping.
She is sleeping.
There's a monitor. So to make this work for Mark, we're at Mark's house. But we have amazing scones. They're delicious. We have local coffee.
All provided by my wife.
All provided by Mark's
wife. Made the coffee, or she set it to be made, and she made the scones this morning.
Man,
that's awesome. So these are Raging Sage recipe.
Raging Sage recipe, and the coffee is
supposed to have it.
Illegal.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And to buy copies.
Well, it's not illegal if you actually worked there and you just know it because you worked there.
Exactly.
The case with your wife.
Yes.
Yeah, scones are amazing.
So, Mark, you should tell us, like, I don't know, a little bit about yourself so people know. Like, how many instruments do you play?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Okay, so that means you
You're
play more than one.
the answer is how many instruments exist.
Yeah, I play several instruments. I don't play woodwind instruments. I can't play flute or saxophone or any of those. My fingers don't work that way. I don't understand them. And I am only okay at the drums and the piano. I'm not great at the piano. I can play like triads on the piano, but that's about it.
I don't even know what those are.
But other than that, I can play.
You used to be a relatively good trumpet player.
Yes, I was a good trumpet player. I played French horn and baritone. I play the guitar and other stringed instruments.
And your favorite, most unique instrument is?
I have this Shruti box. It's called a Shruti box. It's SHRUTI.
Okay.
And it's basically a drone. So it's a box. It's got bellows. And the back opens and the front opens. And you pull the back, and then the front gets pushed open. And as it closes, it lets air out through slots. So you have the chromatic scale, and you can open up different slots to make different notes.
Wow.
Sounds
amazing.
It's very fun.
Do you play it at the Village?
I have played it at the Village.
Wow.
We use it on a drone. As a drone, I have a song called Liberation Hymn, which was modeled after like a Scottish bagpipe march kind of deal.
Yeah.
So when we play it, I try to bring the Shruti box because it gives the drone of the bagpipes, and then the melody of the song is the piping, basically.
Awesome. I love it. Well, we will talk about worship again, and we'll bring in Mike. My immediate thought was, just as you were saying that, I thought that would never happen at our church, a Scottish hymn with a Shruti box. I mean, things happen at our church, but that would not happen.
Do you have any dancers at your church? I have seen dancers at Epicenter, and I was wondering if they've transferred over.
Sort of, but not the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I would say maybe the people have transferred over, but not so much the dancing.
Okay.
But I don't know. We never said you couldn't do it. I don't know. Something about just not being in the downtown warehouse and
the space is limited.
Space is limited.
You need a little room to move around when you're going to dance.
Yeah, right. You need to feel like you're not going to kick somebody in the head.
Which happens when you're doing Scottish and Irish dancing.
Yeah. So I hear. So, anyways, Mark is a social media director for a church that's not the Village. This is my favorite thing about Mark. So
not just a church,
a denomination.
Yeah,
denomination.
Yeah. So there's, and then the Village is you guys have always embraced technology. Right? Is that a good way of putting
technology,
it?
Yeah.
Low technology. Okay.
Yeah. It's the least amount of money for the highest,
easily accessible.
Technology. But you guys, like, when, blogging and podcasting or putting your sermons out there, when not everybody was doing it, you were trying to be in that place.
We were probably one of the first churches to do it.
Yeah.
Outside of even a lot of mega churches.
Yeah.
Most of them were still doing the, we'll send you CDs or
right.
And through the mail. No, we started a download thing, but trying to download one of those sermons.
Yeah. Back
then we had to
like an hour
put them down at the lowest quality so people could.
You had to buy everybody a new computer just to do it. Yeah. So yeah, that's something I've recognized about you all is that now most churches, even little old conservative Baptist churches, are like, we have an iTunes channel.
Yeah.
But a long time ago, you guys were doing that when nobody really saw the point.
Yeah.
And nor understood it.
Yeah, that's probably the thing that's different about us than any church now, technologically, is that we just wholesale put our music up because we can, because none of it is copyrighted. Mm-hmm. And so I think 70 to 80 of our songs are listened to every day.
Wow.
All over the world by, people. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in Tucson, but all over the world.
Wow.
So it gives people access to who we are.
And we have people show up sometimes at church who they walk in and they're like singing village songs. It's their first time there.
And they say, I came to see the Shroot Box.
Yes, exactly.
That has never happened.
No. It might happen. I might come to see the Shroot Box. So social media is a thing. And then that discussion, I mean, I've noticed going into the new year, there's been all sorts of, articles and Christian folks and non-Christian folk talking about, if you're going to make a New Year's resolution, make it have something to do with technology and getting off of technology. So that's a discussion that the world is having. And then it's a discussion my family is having because there's been all sorts of talk in our home about what are the rules going to be. And my daughter was just, given an iPhone. It's my daughter, not my wife's. So we have my daughter half the time. So in half of her life, she has an iPhone now. We're trying to wrap our minds around that. And that's, I have not wrapped my mind around that. So will you help me? Talk to me? And then, so in our home, we're trying to think about that. So I thought, I'd like to talk about some social media.
No.
And then, I'm looking at your floor, Mark.
Yes.
To launch us into the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Your floor is partly here.
Yeah.
So
partly here and partly in the trash, and partly in my backyard.
What happened to you and your dear family?
So I was home with my daughter, and I was watching her in one of the rooms, and I walked out into I walked out into our dining room, and the floor suddenly went squish, squish, squish.
Ooh.
Which I couldn't see any water.
Yeah.
So that seemed like a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So our water heater is in the middle of our house, in a closet in the middle of our house, and I opened up the door, and there was water coming. It was going under the floor.
Yeah.
And seeping under the floor, and it had seeped in a circle, as you two can see, but no one listening can. It had seeped in a circle around the closet where the water heater is. Yeah. So I ran out and turned off the water, and I called my dad first. He came over. We started pulling up some stuff, and then I called this guy at our church, Andrew, who's a really great guy, and came over and helped me for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
To tear up what we needed to in a much more. He's a very skilled guy, so it was much more skilled than my dad and I just kind of prying up
with
floorboards
with a
yeah. So everything got fixed. Eventually, the plumber came the next day and fixed the pipe that had broken on our water heater.
Wow! And so your water heater is still there.
Yes.
The pipe.
So the water heater is still there. The pipe is fixed. Everything works. The water heater actually did not break. It was a pipe that was faulty from when we first moved into this house like a year ago.
Dang.
So,
and your and insurance is helping out.
Insurance is helping us in a huge way.
Wow.
They are. We actually had I don't know if I can say this on the podcast.
I don't know. You probably shouldn't.
I don't know.
It was good.
It was good. There was a really good thing that happened for Lane and I. And then the insurance came, and the insurance said they were going to give us a very large chunk of money.
Wow.
To fix all the flooring and to do a bunch of painting. And
sheesh, man. That's great.
It's very exciting.
Wow.
And also really, really frustrating right now because half my floor is missing.
Yeah.
Right as my baby's starting to crawl also. So she's crawling, and there's like plastic under, so it's like laminate and then plastic and then the cement. And she's like grabbing at the plastic and playing with it and then trying to crawl across the cement and the sharp edges of the laminate flooring. And yeah.
So that's
it's an adventure.
So Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah. Well, so let me.
So
I have a tale to tell.
we hear that your tale is maybe your tale of woe may be more woeful.
Yes,
it's more woeful. I'm thinking of that Brian Regan sketch where where you're always one-upping the person. So sorry, I'm probably going to do that. So Christmas Eve,
Oh no!
So it's already gotten worse.
That's all I had to say. No, Christmas Eve around I don't know, almost 4 something in the morning, almost 5 in the morning. My wife wakes up and smells a strange smell. Seems to be coming from our vents. So I crack some windows open and turn off our furnace in a kind of a sleepy stupor, and I just go, we'll figure this out tomorrow, because it's almost 5 in the morning. We're gonna wake up soon, just whatever. So we go back to bed. About 45 minutes to an hour later, an alarm noise starts going off, and we have smoke alarm and carbon monoxide. And in my mind, I knew it was carbon monoxide. Just had a feeling, and it was.
Oh no!
And so we. And then my phone's ringing, I notice, and it's the fire department, and get out of the house immediately, close all the doors, so we're...
Wait. So you have a carbon monoxide thing connected to the fire department?
Yeah, we're monitored, and I have hated our monitored system so far until Christmas Eve. Now I like it. Now it's great.
I hate the monitor system too, and we got rid of it recently, and now I'm thinking...
Well, this time it was killer because they were there super fast and it did its job. Yeah.
Wow.
So you live? Do you know what engine came? Do you remember what number? Was it 7?
I don't remember.
Daniel didn't show up.
I don't think so. I think I would have recognized him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So they show up. Sure enough, it wasn't a false. A lot of them are false. It was not. There's carbon monoxide in the house.
Oh man.
So then they have to call the gas company. So then the gas company shows up, and he's got to go around and test and try to find where the carbon monoxide leak is. He's doing that. Can't get it to replicate. But he does, when he's testing all the pressure on our gas lines, come back to us and say, hey, I'm sorry, your gas lines aren't holding pressure. This has nothing to do with your carbon monoxide, but we have to turn off all of your gas, tag your meter. You need to get a permit from the city, find your gas leak and repair it, and then get an inspection before we can turn your gas back on. And our plumber buddy, who's great, shows up, 1 hour later on Christmas Eve, does a pressure test and tells us, well, it's leaking underground, which means in our city at this time, the gas company will replace your underground line because there's been a grant. Uh-huh. But it's also leaking in your house. It's leaking on both sides. And so you have to repipe all of your gas line in your house. That has, mind you, nothing to do with the carbon monoxide.
So
what?
So do you have
nothing to do with it?
Do you have a gas heater too?
We have a gas furnace, a gas dryer, a gas stove, gas water heater. Yeah.
Great.
See, if that were us,
oh no,
I don't even think we have a gas water heater.
Yeah, you have a lot of electric. Yeah.
Once we got solar,
yeah,
we're done with the gas.
Yeah. We did add solar this past year, but we did not eliminate all the gas. So. Anyway, 95% sure the carbon monoxide came from the furnace. There was a weird smell, there was a burn. It's old. We've had some ignition issues with it, and it's kind of been slated for getting replaced. It's been in the back of my mind, but we were not ready for it. We called insurance
on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, or ever
on Christmas,
especially. Yeah. So then we called insurance, and they said, so no, nothing happened to, something didn't run into your gas line. It didn't break. And it's
just wear and tear.
We got to be honest, right? No, that didn't, nothing there was no impact, your furnace didn't crack. No. So nothing's covered.
Oh
So it was like just one of those things where you're like, oh, really? Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to be a complainer because that was there were good things around this. So that was Christmas Eve, so it was Sunday, and so we came to church, and some folks asked to like pray, and for us just before the service because I'm preaching, and they were like, "Hey, how's it been today? How's Christmas Eve?" And I said, "Well, pretty rough, And
don't even remember my sermon.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to talk about gas lines and anger at insurance companies. But then, some folks went around and collected some cash, and it was really cool and I didn't know that was happening. But it was really cool because our plumber gave us a great deal, and the cash they gave us covered the plumber and the permit. And the inspector came just now, which is why I was late. I drove by, and he was at the house, and I didn't know he was there. And I'm really glad I drove by because he was about to leave and not pass me because of like a really minor thing that we were able to resolve before he left.
That's good.
So it's all happening, and the gas gets hooked back up tomorrow. And then,
so you've had some cold showers.
We stayed at my mom's.
Oh.
That's good.
We went and stayed at mom's house, which is 5 houses down. So that's also another good. Is my mom kind of needed company because my dad's gone, and it actually I don't think she would have like maybe reached out like in the same way, but now we're just kind of staying with her, and I think it's been kind of good. And then we're just financing a furnace and air conditioner because we got to swap the furnace and the air conditioner because they're all intertwined.
Yeah.
So who did you use for your air conditioning?
Well, so that's another buddy of mine who does a bunch of work. His son does AC mechanical professionally, so he's doing it. And
what's the name of his company? Can we promote it on our?
He actually probably not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He works for a larger organization, so he can't.
Yeah.
It's not like
some work done by that.
Yeah, he can't necessarily hire. Him.
Yeah.
So we don't want to advertise for him. He's doing this for you.
He's doing it for me.
Yeah. That's good.
And it's still a pretty penny, but it's a lot less than it could have been. We got another quote that was double what he was charging, for example.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
air conditioning is like a very unregulated business.
So it seems. Yes. Yeah, the pricing is all over the map.
Right.
The suggestions that we've gotten of what we should do, very different.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
It's all very weird.
All very weird. So there's my tale of home destruction. Eric, how's your house?
Well, let's talk about houses. I live with another couple, so we live in a very large house. It's almost 3,000 square feet. The yard is huge.
Yeah.
Everything is big about it, which is lovely. Because on my salary, I could never have a house like that.
Yeah.
And I could never. So the way I'm able to entertain and help people and all that, and the people who live with us can do that. It's great. But when you have a big house and it's old, you make one little repair and you realize it's nothing. It's like a small pebble in the ocean. So after 18 years, I feel like we've thrown a few pebbles in because the house was a nursing home when we bought it.
Oh, wow.
It had shag carpet that I'm pretty sure had been routinely peed on. And it had it was completely walled off.
You're just imagining this nursing home of old men and women just walking around peeing.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
They had bolt locks in every door.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of work on it, but it's going to take another 10 years. But here's just one example. Our bathtub in our bathroom, if you turn on the shower, it pours. There's a leak between the shower and the head inside the wall.
Oh gosh!
And so if you turn on the shower, it actually pours out into our bedroom, just water into our bedroom. So and the over, what do you call it, the overflow drain. If that water's just pouring into that, it pours out into our bedroom. So I have that plugged, and kids are not allowed to turn on the shower, so they can only take baths. So they have to go to the other two bathrooms. And we're going to have to pull the whole thing out. It's just been a mess
Yeah.
and I don't have the money to do that. So right now it's a jerry-rigged bathroom until God brings...
Is that the bathroom that has the sink that has had an out-of-order sign for like 2 years on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this bathroom needs redone.
It does. It has European faucets. And my wife bought regular, like the European ones that cost more. Like the whole hookup is odd.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
Sounds very elite, though.
It was at one point elite.
Yeah.
30 years ago. So anyway, we also have a wood floor that's floaty in the front that it's not in good shape. There's
stuff.
There's stuff.
Issues.
But no water, no carbon dioxide. All that stuff.
So the exciting news I have for you is this.
What?
So, well, it's by exciting, I mean not. In this case. Maybe there is exciting news. So with this leak, the Southwest gas guy tells me, because we all have older homes, right? How old? Not that old.
It's like 58, I think, something like that.
And
60-something.
60-something. Mine's 52. But apparently all the gas lines back then, they typically did quickly without the right kind of sealing components. And even for their day, in the 50s especially, he's saying, they used couplings that were not recommended, but they were cheaper.
Yeah.
And so he showed me the first coupling that you could see one right when the gas line came in. He says, "Watch, this one will leak." And he pumped it up with air and sprayed water, and it was it was leaking.
Yeah.
And he said they all leak in your house, and all your neighbors leak. He said, and so they will all fail a pressure test, and they work. But as soon as if you have any issue where the gas company has to come out and test it, it will fail. It's not maybe. It's they all are leaking and they all will fail. It's just most people's don't happen to get tested.
That's terrifying, and my wife is no longer going to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Please don't let her listen to this podcast. Just say it's not an important one. It didn't go well.
So right. So what he's saying is like,
I'm going to take this part after.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what he's saying is like just all our gas lines are leaking. It's just how much and if anything and if it ever has to get tested, then it's going to fail and you're going to have to replace the whole thing.
Well, and people say that our podcast is not informative, but I think this is one of the most informative podcasts ever.
Except that all the people who have done work on our houses, we can't promote. No one can hire.
Right. That's probably. I bet there's a lot of that in pastor world because there's a lot of like favors and helping and like even like church connect where it's like, oh, who'd you hire? Well,
this person.
Yeah, you can't just call them.
Yeah,
it doesn't work that way.
A friend.
Yeah. I can't promote them on air.
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, we promised people that we were going to talk social media. And we have a social media expert.
We do.
So let's just ask him, what do you think of social media?
What do I think of social media? I think social media is incredibly dehumanizing.
And yet you spoon feed it to us every day.
I do. I think social media is a really great tool. I think it's a very good connecting tool. I think much like the Village early website was so great with like blogging and having people have discussions, like discussion boards, great. It's a really cool thing when you know the people you're talking to.
Yeah.
So within your community,
it brings
social media brings people
more connection, right?
Brings more connection, generally speaking. Now,
or disconnection.
I mean, but if you have a community outside of the social media world, like if you have a physical community, even the disagreements and the hard things on social media can be addressed in the real physical world, and you can have interaction. Whereas what social media has become is that it just maintains our loose connections with. Like this guy, I was thinking about worship, so I was on social media looking at some people that I know, and this guy popped up. His name's Mario. I'm sure he's a very nice guy. I've never had a conversation with him.
Mm-hmm.
I met him briefly at a conference in Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
and he lives in California.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time I've ever seen him. I don't even know how I found him on Facebook or how he found me.
Yeah.
I don't know him. So I can't actually, I can interact with him on social media all I want, but I have no way of like talking to him in the real world. There's no, I'm not going to travel to California to go to his church because he's not connected with the Village or the CRC, or he's not even connected with the Free Methodist Church, who is my employer.
Mm-hmm.
He's just this guy that I met once.
Yeah. And so you're reading the things that he posts, but they're out of context, right?
They're completely out of context.
Yeah. And then you're able to kind of, I think what we do is we assume a context upon somebody based on what we know and understand and our biases and whatnot, and we can read the things that they say and assume all sorts of things about them that may or may not be true.
Right. And this guy, so I met this guy, he's a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good guy, a nice guy. If I saw him if I was in California, I saw him, I would have a good conversation with him. I'd be excited to see him. I'd say, "Hey, how's your church going?"
Yeah.
There's another guy I met once on my Facebook who posts a whole bunch of political stuff that I think whether you agree with it or not, I find offensive.
Right.
And that is what I know about this person.
Yep.
That's all I know about this person is his stuff on Facebook. And so if I saw him in real life, I would be very hesitant to want to interact with him and have a conversation with him.
So I had an interesting, I just thought of this, and it was at Eric's favorite place, Brugger's.
Oh, wow. Brugger's,
Yeah,
yes.
Brugger's. And you never know what's going to happen at Brugger's.
You don't.
But there was a guy at Brugger's who I've seen regularly. I always sit, because I go to Brugger's every Friday and work on, continued education. So I always sit right next to the garbage can because it's the only power outlet. And it smells, but it's worth it. And so everybody interacts with me because they come over to the garbage can and feel like they need to acknowledge me because my head is right by where they're putting the garbage. And so he always kind of goes, "Oh, Apple computer, huh?" And how are you? And so there's been this little thing. I've been going there.
Now, does this guy kind of look like my dad?
No.
Okay, just a second.
I mean, he's around your dad's age, maybe a little bit younger. But were you thinking that was your dad?
No,
yeah.
No. There's a doppelganger
of
my dad.
Oh,
no, Brugger's. He's pretty funny.
This isn't him. And I'm setting up this story way too long. But the point. So he and I have there's been this little rapport and like, "Hey, how are you?" And "Hey, how you doing today?" And so on. And and if you were to ask me, I go, "Hey, pretty nice guy." So then he sits down to me and he's talking a little more because I think he's kind of gotten used to me. And he shares something, and I think he's retired. And I was like, "Oh, so what do you do these days?" And he says, "Well, I look for people to debate on Facebook." And I said, "Really? Like regularly?" He's like, "Yes, a lot." "Oh, okay. What do you debate?" "Politics." And I'm like going, "Oh no." I'm thinking in the back of my mind, "You're one of those guys." Like, that's you. And basically he's like, I like to kind of get under people's skin and like see what they think. But then so I'm like, "Oh, why do you do that?" Well, I figure like, if you're gonna get somebody to think about something, you kind of gotta like agitate them a little bit and kind of get them out of their comfort zone. And I think I said something to the effect of like, "Do you think that's working on Facebook? Do you think that you are helping people think about things in a more constructive way, that they're really listening to you?" And he kind of goes, "Well, sometimes I think so. I hope so." And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, "No, you're not."
No.
But it was interesting because I met him in the reverse order, like where it's normally you see these guys who are just like, and you on Facebook or whatever, guys or gals, and you're going, "What is your problem?" But I met this guy just out socially. I know his face. I know his mannerisms. He seems like kind of a cheery guy. Seems a little bit like maybe he doesn't know quite how interactions work in a way, just even from in person, and I'm going like, and I have this compassion for him because I'm like, I don't think he gets, I think he actually wants people to think differently. He doesn't understand that this isn't going to be an effective strategy. But it's interesting to meet him outside of social media. I've never interacted with him there. But then to learn that that's what he does.
Which I think is the problem with social media. Because there's the trolls, which are people
who do that.
They go in and they just kind of agitate for sometimes for, it seems like for effect, like just to get people mad. But the problem is you don't, even those people, you don't see who they are. So here's this guy who legitimately wants to encourage people to think in different ways. And I would imagine, and I don't know because I don't know him and I've never interacted with him on social media.
Right.
But I would imagine that most people who interact with him on social media are just mad at him.
Yeah.
And they don't actually think of it in a different way.
Right.
They just are mad. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem with social media, is that it reduces people to one idea. Mm-hmm. So unless you know them outside of social media, and I mean like really know them, where like my friends from high school or my friends from 10 years ago who I see on social media, I don't actually know them anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't have a context for what they're going through in life. I don't know where they're at. I don't know anything other than what they post on social media. So they are reduced. Even those people who I, in the past, have known really well are still reduced to one or two ideas. Mm-hmm. So unless you know someone outside of social media, like in real life currently right now, you're going to reduce them to that idea. And it's really hard to not do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Near impossible.
Well, and the complexity of social media is really the issue. And even like when you think about, so all the younger people like my son's age, 12 to 15, I mean, they're not about Facebook. They're not about Instagram. They're about YouTube. Yeah. And YouTube is the core of what they think about social media.
YouTube and Netflix, increasingly.
Yes. Yeah. Because those are the places to engage, particularly YouTube. And there are stars in YouTube, and you can put up your own videos. And Instagram seems to be a millennial kind of experience, and that taking pictures of yourself doing these things, like the adventurous life, the life with your family. Whereas older people like us end up on Facebook and older commenting. I don't see a lot. I mean, there are young people on Facebook, but I don't see them in that particular venue.
Not nearly as much. The highest demographic for Facebook now is what, like 50 to 60-year-old women, I think. It is.
Yeah. No, it really is. Yeah. Well, I also think like Tumblr is a place that a lot of younger people find themselves.
Snapchat.
There's
Snapchat.
I did read there's a Tumblr page where this guy compiled a bunch of, it was honest slogans for companies. So it was like Pepsi, is Pepsi okay? Because when you ask for Coca-Cola, they say, is Pepsi okay?
Yeah.
Right. So one of them was YouTube, and it said, YouTube, don't read the comments.
Yeah.
Because the comments are always horrible on YouTube.
Gosh, yeah.
Right.
But it is where people are interacting more and more, is in the comment section on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is terrifying to me.
And then there's probably that app that the three of us are too old to know about.
Right.
Snapchat?
No, it's
even that's
been around.
Beyond Snapchat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I know that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the last one I heard of. But
well, and I think like it also was loud. It's like, so with Instagram and the visual aspects, especially on the darker side, it allows a more broader sexualization of people. They can kind of be their own movie star. They can be their own, they can post a lot of things that they shouldn't be posting. I mean, it's a dangerous pit. So to go to your child and her iPhone. Mm-hmm. All my kids have iPhones.
Yeah.
My youngest one he gets the old iPhone. He's not on service, so he can't make phone calls other than on Google Chat.
But he can use the device and kind of play games.
Well, he he has to ask. It's checked in and out. So he uses it for podcasts. He's not allowed to go on the internet. And he's allowed to download a game or two, but he's not really that interested. It's mostly podcasts and talking to his friends, which he does on Google Chat, but he has to ask for permission for that. Yeah. So it's in a check in and out kind of experience for him.
Yeah.
Well, and not to terrify you, but there are apps available now, and they were available 3 years ago, where you can download the app and then it functions as a hiding place for other apps.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Where you open it up and then it allows you to see the other apps.
You know where I learned about that?
Where?
The Emoji Movie.
The Emoji Movie? They talked about it in the
Trojan apps. Yeah.
The Trojan apps.
I was watching the movie, I was like, oh shoot, that is a real thing, I'm sure.
It's a very real thing.
And it makes total sense where like the kid can be like, hey, look, it's my Bible app.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yes,
which is so what we did without social media, like it's like I hid things, not behind an app badge, but I hid things,
Yeah, it's just that like getting the matches and the firewood and the paper was a lot harder. Now it's a little bit easier.
It is. Yeah. So we had a discussion with one of our elders of the church. He's our older elder, and so I think he's looking at he didn't, his kids are grown now. They're doing all these things, but when they were children, it wasn't really there. And so he was saying like, this is just not good. Like this is, Facebook isn't good. These things aren't good. They're only probably harming us. And the hard part, and he was kind of, I think, insinuating that it would be better if we just got off of those things and didn't have those things. And so I'm feeling all this kind of angst with my daughter and her new iPhone, but then I'm thinking, man, like I know, it's obvious to me that she will grow up and this technology will be a big part of her life. And I don't think the way to teach her how to walk in that place and how to live in that world is to just say restrict her from it. Like I can look at so many other examples of why just restricting doesn't help. Similar like to how I feel about something like even like alcohol. Like if you act like alcohol doesn't exist and you don't ever and you hide from your kids that you have a little, then you expect them just to grow up and know what to do with it. Or like money problems. Oh, we hide our money problems. And then the kid grows up, they don't know what to do with their money problems. Yeah. So it's like, I think you have to teach people not to like get out, but how to walk in this technological world. And so that's just where I'm at, is like right about there with my daughter, is like that. We just need to be in that space with her more, because it will be a part of her life. I mean, that's just no doubt. So you have a little older kids, Eric. How have you?
Well, and I think I have a unique experience because I grew up without a TV.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the main questions that most engineering companies now ask is what the people applying, what their involvement with like television was. Yeah. Did they have one or didn't they? Because if you didn't, you tend to be more creative.
Yeah.
But what happened to me is I didn't have a TV up until I was 18 or 19 when I left home. Yeah. And then I became addicted.
Oh man. I did the same thing.
I never had it. And so now I still television, movies, all those things are so enticing to me. Yeah. Where I watch my daughter, she likes to watch a movie or two. There's a show, she doesn't care.
Yeah.
And she watched TV with us and watched movies and stuff, but she just.
But it wasn't this forbidden thing that was withheld. I mean, that's right. What I've seen that in so many areas of life over and over. The forbidden thing.
But there's a but. I'm actually more creative than she is. I can see it. I was much more creative in different ways. Like she has some particular creativities where she's just honed down because it's her personality. But overall, she doesn't think about her life as every venue has a creative thing to go after.
She is an amazing artist.
Oh, she's a brilliant artist, and she's very creative. Yeah, but not in the same way. She doesn't think about her whole life in this big creative thing.
And so you would attribute some of that to her not having to create her own entertainment or her own.
Yeah, I see that with both my kids. They don't know how to do that. Now, with her, because we kept pushing her towards one particular art form, she's found that.
Yeah.
But as a kid, as a younger kid, and I see it in my son, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get up in the morning, all day Saturday, I played outside.
Yeah.
Except to do my chores. And I had fun, and I really was hardly ever bored.
Yeah.
That boy's bored nonstop because he has the electronic thing in the back of his mind, and that's where his imagination is being played out, is in those worlds there. And he doesn't know how to play out just in the backyard. Life. Yeah.
And how does that, you think, impact social interaction for your kids?
Well, I mean, I think it centers it around. So all of their friendships are built around electronics, devices and stuff like that. And when given the option of going outside and playing basketball or playing a video game, well, the video game's going to win all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that there's some more intensity about particular kinds of creativity, but it's all very focused around electronic things. I mean, they're imaginative. I'm not saying it kills their imagination, but it does sort of narrow it in some way, I think.
Well, and I think the thing that we haven't figured out really on our phones and on our computers is how to create ways to be creative. Like there's Minecraft is a creative space, but you're creative within that world.
Right.
It doesn't extend
outward.
Or very rarely. Right. There's some people who have done some design work in Minecraft, I think.
Yeah. But it takes a special skill to be able to do that. Whereas if we were sitting here and we were building this world together and we had a piece of paper, any of us could draw. Maybe not expertly, but we could create that world.
Yeah.
And I know right now we all sound like Luddites, which is fun.
Well, and it's cool, but I mean, I do think I think kids have a harder time spending time outside. Like one of the women at our church, their family had this. They did a week on and a week off. Yeah. So what she would do is she said, other than schoolwork, one whole week, all the screen time you want.
Yeah.
No limits, except, you can't do it after you're in bed. And then the next week, nothing.
Yeah.
And she would do this rotation. She said on the weeks that there was nothing, the kids, after the first day, would be outside building stuff, designing things, trying to come, because, and then they would just get depressed for their screen time. Because it really doesn't fulfill in the same way, because you're constantly trying to level up or improve this or...
Well, and those environments they're designed to not satisfy you because they're designed to make you keep coming back, right? Yeah. And so they're by design not going to satisfy. There will never be a I did it moment. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when you do something in your house and you have that feeling of finishing it.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't go away. It doesn't say game over.
Yeah, you see it every day. You live with it. You notice it,
and then
which everything is built that way now. So you look at Mario, and Mario, the original Mario game on the
like a Nintendo NES,
the NES. There's a way to end that game. You finish all of the levels,
and you have defeated. I remember that feeling.
You don't level up Mario.
Yeah.
And keep leveling him up and making him more powerful to beat the next level, to beat the next level, to beat the next level. And games now are not, there's always something more to do.
They're never ending, right?
Right. Anyway. Or there's a new one.
Yeah.
Even in say the Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? There's all these stars that you can collect. Well, if you collect all of those stars, there's still more things to do in the game. I think it's stars. I don't play Zelda, but I'm pretty sure it's stars.
You can finish the game and only have completed 10% of it.
Right, you can collect all those stars and still have things to do in that game. And 2 years from now, they're going to release, and I don't know if they actually are, but they're probably going to release a new...
They already did.
Yeah.
And then they release little animals that can go along with you in the quest, even though you finished it. Like,
right.
this is...
And there's another difficulty that you can do it all on, and there's another...
And they've monetized everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing, is that the monetization of social media and how... and not just social media, but video games and all those kinds of things.
But video games, in a lot of ways, is now social media because of the
merging.
Right. You don't just play offline.
Right.
You don't just play your game offline. You play in a world where everybody else is.
And there's a new movie coming out about like this just dystopian city.
Ready Player One? Is that
maybe. I can't. No, I don't think so. It's like this dystopian society where the only escape, the only beautiful thing is the game. And you've got to like... And then all the important things, like there's a war and there's adventure and like you got to defeat evil, but it's all in the game, and reality's still just drab. And I've only seen previews. I don't know if it's even out yet. But just when I saw that, I was like, man, here's like the people making these movies are thinking about this is where it's going.
Well, I read a book. I
That's
read a book.
Social media.
That's crazy.
I
don't even know if we can talk
while
about
you were
that.
reading it.
I read it in middle school.
That explains it.
So it's. I think it was written like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember the title of the book, but in the book there's a game, and the game is illegal because it's a virtual reality game, and it actually plugs into your brain.
Yeah.
And you don't know that you're in the game.
Yeah.
And so people don't know to take it off. So unless there's someone there to take the game off, which I think they also talk about that being really... You have to decide to take the game off because otherwise it's this very traumatic thing that happens. So you're in this game and people just were wasting away and dying.
Wow.
Because they didn't take the game off and they weren't actually getting sustenance in the real world.
So somebody was looking ahead.
This was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember the title of that book? We're gonna have to look that up on Google.
Have to look
afterwards.
it up.
That sounds like an interesting book.
We'll try to add that into the intro or something.
Yeah.
Well, so then it's interesting. We got to wrap this up soon, but I mean, we're talking about kids and all this stuff, but then with adults, and there's all the research that's showing that the same things that drugs are doing to our brains, our devices are doing to our brains, and we know that, but we're hooked. And then I've noticed a huge piece with the elderly population, and there's an interesting thing when my dad was in the hospital. Like the key piece to his recovery was like he needed to be outside and he needed to be moving. They were saying, and that would be a sign of like where he might build his strength. And with my dad, that's what he wanted to do. He was all for that. But I've noticed even watching my mom, who's about 80 years old, she's starting to be on the phone more. A lot of other adults I know who are younger, middle age, a lot. Mm-hmm. And then I was in a movie theater and there was about an 80-year-old man in front of me, and the whole thing came on the screen about, put your devices away. He looked up at it and just went right back. And I kind of peeked over his shoulder. He was on Facebook. So like, this isn't just like, the young kids, like they've designed it and really grabbed into the elderly population.
Yeah.
Well, it's validation, and there's always something more to consume.
Oh yeah.
Which, just to transition this and maybe give us a little preview for the worship thing, is that I think worship music, like all this, social media is about an experience, and it's about an immediate experience and a sense of connection and belonging and having your opinion heard and taking pictures of yourself to show everybody what you're doing, and there's a whole bunch of other issues. But worship music over the last 30 years has become an experience.
Yeah.
And I think
it's become about us instead of God.
Theologically, since you know that it is, it's become less, as I was telling Mark before, about the Eucharist, communion, the body and the blood, which for good Protestants is not necessarily that experiential. We've not, because we're in the heritage of Zwingli, where it's all symbolic, and so we've lost this sense. So when the main part of our meeting and our gathering, the body and the blood of Christ, has been replaced by worship music. Worship music is what we're partaking of because we want this experience. And so it's become very experiential music And so that's why people are having trouble more and more now, because theologically we're starting to question what is being taught, like what we're being told, and how we understand ourselves, how we understand Jesus, what we're expecting from God. And so I suspect for both of our communities, that's what we're wrestling with when we start talking about worship music.
Well, I feel like we should go there, because we could talk about the music or the art of it all day, but that's at the core of why we do what we do.
Right. So maybe we should just get a couple of Hillsongs. Chris Tomlin will just got to break them down theologically.
That'll only take 5 minutes.
That represents the other problem is that we've learned how to monetize worship music.
Oh, unbelievable! Right. And we're very comfortable with it.
It has become an industry.
Yeah, a big one. Yeah, so much so that country music has started to mimic Christian worship music because they know that it sells.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
It's disturbing that we are giving this musical hook kind of power to people we're not in community with, and people don't even know if they know Jesus.
Right.
Well, and you read stories from people like Derek Webb.
Yeah.
And Dan Hazeltine, I think that's how you say his last name, from Jars of Clay.
Yeah.
And they talk about in the Christian music industry the way your album had to be set up. You had to have a certain number of these kinds of songs, and you had to have a marketable story for why you wrote the radio song.
Yeah.
The song was going to be on the radio. You had to have it had to be like a 2-minute thing where the host could say, and he wrote this song because of this, and this that was happening in his life, and that's why this song is so great, and here it is.
Ugh. Yeah, right. And I believe all that. And most of those Christian companies they had sold to big Sonys and BMGs a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah, and they know how to market, and so it was the whole motivation behind it all had changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anywho, all right. Better call this thing to a close.
We better.
Mark, thanks for being with us. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for opening up your home. Hope your floor gets fixed soon. And
Me too.
See you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2018.